There it is.
What's up? I'm just kind of up here to see what you're doing.
You want to do the lesson?
No, I'm actually good.
Okay.
My sister lives down over the hill in Mother. She's just right before the Outer Banks. She doesn't have anything to go down there.
Good morning, everybody. It's 5 minutes after we're supposed to start. I know Ben is somewhere listening or watching, and I'll get fired.
Somewhere warmer he is.
Yeah, somewhere warmer. So,
Ben, Jill.
first thing I want to bring up, when I get volunteered to do these lessons, and these guys go on vacation, they all miss you guys very much. And you should probably call them every day about 3 times a day and tell them how much you love them. And if you want, I can put Ben and Brandon's phone number up so you can call these people. They really appreciate it, and they need our inspiration. So we're in a new year. First Sunday of the new year. So we got 52 more of them, right? 51 more, right? So this goes along with, I was supposed to do the lesson on Wednesday. So Brian called me and said the weather was pretty bad, and we all kind of decided it'd be safer to not risk it. So, and judging by the next morning, I saw some people off the road. I saw one person ran off the road, went up someone's driveway, couldn't make it, and then slid down, and they stopped right against the backside of the mailboxes. They couldn't go up the hill, couldn't go down the hill. There they are, stuck. So, looked like they had a good time. So, who won the Steeler game, the last Steeler game we had on the 28th of December? Does anybody know that? Cleveland won, right? So Brandon's probably happy over that. So, here we go. I found my notes. We're doing a study at our own house about changing the inner man. I mentioned this to one of the members here this morning. So this morning, we're ready to roll out the door and come here early because Stephanie's going to print everything out for everybody and do our thing. And I said to Stephanie, hey, where's my lesson that I sent to the printer, that you sent to the printer? Did it print out? I don't know. Did you go down and check? No, I didn't go down and check. So we go down, and there's the plan of salvation. That's it. The whole lesson was not printed out. So, okay, cool. Well, I got notes. So we're going to church. Everybody load up in the truck. We're going to go. Get outside. I'm stuffing the stuff in the back of the vehicle. Jesse's outside helping me. And I turn around and look, and everyone here knows Alvin. If you don't, after today, you will. There he is laying in a pile of snow. He's already dressed for church, and he's packed with snow, like right? Like you had 10 steps from the door to get in the car. So I helped him remove the snow rather roughly and stuffed him in the car. And now we're on the way to church. And as I look up at the house, Kat came out of the house last. The door's wide open. It's only January. Okay. I jump out of the car, I go, and I shut the door. We're off to church. And the inner man was there and well and alive. But I did better than usual. So I just wanted to bring that up. I did better than usual. Oh, not to mention, we had a visit from Billy 15 minutes before we had to roll out the door. He just shows up. Hey, good morning. What are you doing? Tying my shoes. Like, I'm going to church. So, that being said, somebody mentioned that Cleveland won the last football game, and there's a reason why I brought that up. The average screen time of American adults is between 6 to 7 hours a day, staring at this. 6 to 7 hours a day, that's the average. Teens, 10 to 12 hours a day, staring at their phone. The average drive time to work in the whole country is 1 hour each way. So it's more or less for all of us, but 1 hour. That's a lot of time. 2 hours a day, gone, just sitting behind the wheel. In reflection of that, the time that we spend, how much time do we spend watching the game? How many times have we been here going, man, Brandon, you're running over. The game's going to start. Only around 11 to 16% of Americans read the Bible at all. And of those people, the average time that they read their Bible is only 30 minutes. And that's on a daily basis. If you look in the book of Ecclesiastes, the writer of Ecclesiastes says, chasing after these things is chasing the wind. We've got so much going on in the world all around us. I saw something on TV, on the news or something, that mosques are coming up, sprouting up all over the country faster than ever. And Christianity is on the decline. I don't remember the statistic on this exactly, but it was something like 800 churches a week in this country, overall denominations, close their doors. Just close it up. They're done. They're not growing. They're not doing anything. They're dead. That's it. The doors are shut. It's a strong indication as to what's going on. And we can look at politics, and we can look at the economy, and we can look at all the things around us in the world, but really when you boil it down to the smallest denominator, there's a spiritual war going on here. It isn't on some other planet. It isn't somewhere else. It's here. Hold on, Billy, I'll get to you. We are here and we have a purpose. Billy, since you raised your hand, what's your purpose? Yeah. That's part of it. The Great Commission gives us a purpose, and that is to seek and save the lost. We're supposed to represent Christ, Christianity, love one another, and seek and save the lost. But our greatest commission is to seek and save the lost. We're failing. If we look at the numbers all across the board, we're failing. I don't think this congregation is failing entirely, but I failed this week. I didn't preach the gospel to very many people. There wasn't very many people that saw Christ, and they didn't know they saw Christ if they did. There were some things I was successful at, but I didn't win on all points. I know this morning when I was dusting the snow off my little boy, throwing him in the car, you didn't see Christ there. Someone was thinking they were going to see Christ soon, but go ahead, Billy.
All right, Scott, you said about being spiritual and there's a war, and you said, okay, my question is, all right, so our bodies, like what you said about reading the book, only so many, 30 minutes a day. So our bodies, we got to take the action to read that book to fill our spirit and soul up with the goodness of the Lord, right? For that spiritual warfare, right? Okay, the world today isn't doing that. So we're filling up with everything worldly. Now, in turn, if we fill our souls up worldly stuff, then in turn we're going to, because everything we see with our eyes and hear with our ears comes back out of us. Everything we take in comes out.
Yeah.
So then in turn, we're going to be worldly. We're going to lose touch and lose hope and lose knowledge that the Lord's even there, right? Am I correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll get to that towards the end of my study if we get that far. The Bible illustrates to us what the things that we should focus on. And it also illustrates to us that there's a time for everything. If you look at 2025 and look at everything that we did, everything that we went through as a congregation, everything we went through as a family, there was a lot of work that we had to do. There was a lot of things that we did that consumed our time. How much more time could we use here for the service of the Lord rather than service of the world? If you look in Ecclesiastes 3, and I'm just going to start with 1. Before we get there, is anybody familiar with this? Probably Randy. I trust him. Are you familiar with this chapter? No? Okay. There's a time for everything, it says, and a season for every activity under the heavens. A time to be born and a time to die. A time to plant and a time to uproot. A time to kill and a time to be healed. Some of these illustrations kind of struck me a little bit off. Time to kill what? Time to heal what? When you study your Bible, a lot of times we'll try to read it, and that's it. But if you reflect on the details and get a little closer to what you're reading, it reveals more. And if you think about it throughout the day, you come to some other understandings about some things. There's a time to tear down and a time to build. There's a time to weep and a time to laugh. There's nothing worse than a guy that laughs when you're supposed to be crying. That's for sure. There's a time to mourn and there's a time to dance. A time to scatter stones and a time to gather them. A time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing. A time to search and a time to give up. There's some hunters out there. If you've ever lost a deer, it's hard to pick out that time when it's time to give up and go home. We're done. I draw the line at 5 miles. I'm done. 5 miles, that's it. I'm going home. There's a time to keep. This is one we could practice here maybe. A time to keep and a time to throw away. Has anybody been up to the cry room lately? Just saying. A time to tear and a time to mend. A time to be silent and a time to speak. A time to love. This one really got me. A time to hate. Probably going to study that a little bit deeper. Hate what? A time for war and a time for peace. Those last few there really get me. A time for war. Don't we always ask for peace? Maybe there's a time for war. What do workers gain from their toil? Hold on, Billy. I'll get you. What do workers gain from their toil? Look at our last year. Look at all the work we did, both in the world and here, and then look what you got for it. I can guarantee you the work that you did here has much more of a lasting effect than the wage you earned just to pay the bills, just to buy that Christmas gift, just to get by, just to put brakes on the vehicle. You know, that's all going to go to waste. Everything that we've done here, that we've sincerely done here, is eternal. Here in this world, we have time. Is there time in heaven? No more days. One day, the last day. I was talking to one of my Amish guys. I got to give him a ride this week. His wife's in the hospital. He's been having some struggles, so I took him around to get feed and fuel and all this other crazy stuff. And we were talking about, you know, the time that these things consume and the things he wants to be doing. And for him, if it's daylight, he's working. They've got some gas lanterns and lamps and stuff, but if it's daylight, he's working. If it's dark, he's done. We were talking about no darkness being in heaven. None. God is light. Verse 10, I've seen the burden God has laid on the human race. He has made everything beautiful in its time. He has also set eternity in the human heart. Yet no one can fathom what God has done from the beginning to the end. So, did you have something there, Billy? Or?
That first little bit of stuff you were saying, time this, time that, was that for me spiritually? Like, is there a time spiritually for a war, like a spiritual war that's going on within me? There's a time for that? Or does that mean physically a time for, like, me to buck up?
I think that actually reflects on it's time for some deeper reflection. It's time for you to go home and open your Bible and say, what time is it talking about? I think it's talking about it all of it, both spiritual and in the physical. The time that we spend loving, hating, working, crying, laughing, that there's a specific time for that. What happens when you run into somebody that's laughing when they should be crying? You pretty much think they're nuts. They don't fit in. They're going against nature. There's something going on there. Go ahead, Billy.
One more question. On that morning, there's a time to mourn. Doesn't God say you should party or something like that? I don't know exact words. Out of death. why is he telling me there's a time to mourn then? Like, I'm not trying to be ignorant. But that really does make me.
So there's a time to mourn. There's a time to be sad that you've lost someone or suffered. And there's a time to accept your losses and put them aside and celebrate their win. In my opinion, and that's just an opinion, that's what it means. I mean, it's okay to be happy that a brother or a sister in Christ is finally going to go to paradise after suffering so much. It's reassuring to know that they're going to be with the Lord, but it's also right to be sad and mourn their loss because you're sad. You miss them. You love them. Randy, did you have something there? Sure. Okay.
Let me think. First of all, if I understand the book of Ecclesiastes right, Solomon is writing it from a man's point of view, even though it's inspired. Okay? Mm-hmm. So some of these things in what it's time to do are factual things that happen with mankind, such as war and hate and things like that. On the same thoughts, as you were reading them, when you said a time to hate, the Bible, I believe, or at least it's inferred, that we are supposed to hate the sins, but not the sinner, of course. And like I said, I don't think there's an exact verse for that, but the concept is true, that we are try to avoid sin, try to hate it, mm-hmm. Literally. Don't love it, you know.
Abhor that which is evil.
Yeah. And you got the time for war. Well, Old Testament's got plenty of times when God instructed his people to destroy nations. Sometimes there's a reason for war as well, whether we like it or not, and it's inspired to some extent also. So I just see it as a possibility.
Right.
Let me think. Well, yeah, as you asked me if I knew the chapter, yeah, because I like to sing the song once in a while. That old 60s song. Anyway, that's just some thoughts from that. But I think the biggest point of view that I'm trying to bring out is like I say, understanding right. Solomon is writing it, even though it's inspired, he's writing it from a man's point of view.
Anybody else? Nothing else? I always forget, when are we supposed to stop? Because I have a lot more, so 10, 15, till the kids are all running around and making a bunch of noise? Okay. All right. We'll watch for Elvin. Go ahead.
I was
Yeah.
is this on? I was pondering as you were saying about like what you think when somebody's laughing that should be crying, because I've been in the situation where it's been so distressing. Usually you're just stressed out that you want to cry, but you just start laughing. Like usually it's an indication, like you said, they're crazy or they're under extreme stress. Mm-hmm. So in either case, I think that whoever it is in that situation needs God's intervention and help, you know. Yeah. So I think that when your mind is that close to like a break, I think we forget sometimes that we can send up a prayer, you know, sit down and read and come back from it, you know.
That changes the effect of whatever you're stuck in. I've noticed whenever I'm in a situation where I'm not behaving properly or I'm reacting to some things that are going on, and I just reflect on God and maybe say just a little prayer, it changes the dynamics of all of it. the world doesn't have that grasp on you that it had just a minute ago. Billy.
Well, if you look too at the beginning of this book, he talks about how everything is meaningless. So it's all about perspective.
Right.
You know, and if you step back from whatever situation you're in and realize, well, this is all temporary, like what, you know, why am I doing that? But if you have this mindset of godliness and righteous, you know, and grasp onto that to bring yourself back, then it makes sense.
Right.
You know.
Sometimes I get so wrapped up with work or trying to get certain things done that I forget that it's really not important. Go ahead, Billy.
Okay, on that morning, I just figured out that I think when he says about not to cry out of birth, he's talking, when he's using them words, he's using them literally. And mourn doesn't mean to cry, does it? It just means you're to be sad, like you said. So it's like she's saying, all in your perspective. You know what I mean? Like how you view the English language, because it's pretty perplexed, you know.
Well, I think the word mourn is all encompassing, you know, overwhelming sadness. However you react with that is you. So in the previous chapter, like Kaylee was saying, he writes and he says that everything at the very end of the chapter says, this too is meaningless as chasing after wind. There's so many things that we go after, and if you look at what it's going to be worth down the road, nothing. I mean, it's really not that important. But I wanted to do this lesson because it's the new year, and I wanted to inspire us to focus on what we spend our time on. What is valuable and what isn't? What is going to have a lasting effect and what isn't? Churches are dying all the way across the country. Mosques are popping up everywhere. Stephanie, what town was that we were driving through along 28? There's a brand new mosque there. It's, right across from the Holton Bridge, Oakmont. Is that Oakmont there or Oakdale? Oakmont. There's a housing complex there, brand new apartment buildings and all that stuff. And I used to go to a granite shop there that was a wholesaler for granite. And I remember they leveled it, and I didn't know why, but some of that was for the parking lot for that giant mosque that's right there. It's right here. A mosque is where Muslims go to worship, with the little dome and the call to prayer and all that stuff. But it's just an illustration as to, you know, you drive through Katanning, drive anywhere around here. There's a church somewhere, I can't remember, I drive by it frequently, but you drive past it and it's completely boarded up, and I think, wow, all that material, I could use that. You know, it's got beautiful windows in it and all that stuff, and it's completely for nothing. We got to make sure that what we do isn't for nothing. What we do has a meaningful and lasting effect. It's our job. So we can talk about the Steeler game, or I know when we first became Christians, I remember Stephanie's friend and Stephanie talking to people saying, hey, on the college scene, you know, let me tell you about my man Jesus. Sometimes I think we like to bring him down a little bit and make him our buddy and put our arm around him, but he is our friend, you know, and everything else. Let's move on to Proverbs verse 23. I'm going to be lazy and just read it off the monitor. verse 7. I got it here too. He is like one who is inwardly calculating. I think this might be wrong. I might have written this down wrong. No, that's not correct. Let's go to Philippians 4:8. Finally, brothers, whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is just, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is commendable, if there is any excellence, if there is anything worthy of praise, think about these things. So on a day like today, when I woke up and things went sideways, and I came here to church, I had to not think about the things that I went sideways with. I had to focus on this lesson and presenting this lesson. Now, Billy mentioned about, you wake up and you live in this world, and the world affects you because we're in this world. But if you're struggling and you're in a bad mood, life's eating your lunch for you, this is what you're supposed to do. This is going to change the way you think. Your mood is a reflection of the thoughts, in your mind. If you change your way of thinking, if you reflect on these things, even when you're in a bad mood, suddenly you'll be better off. If you're gonna focus on whatever is true, there's a lot of time we don't know what is true. I don't know what I just saw going on there, but until I inquire, the reaction may not be necessary. Me looking over and seeing my child rolling around in the snow, I'm certain he didn't have the same perspective that I did. He had the perspective, there's snow, what hindereth me from getting in it? He found out what hinders him. Whatever is honorable. What do we give honor to in this world? Is it that guy that made the touchdown? What are we honoring? Is it chasing after the wind? Whatever is just. What is just? First of all, we have to figure out what's true. A lot of times we see things on the news and we go, oh, that's just. By whose perspective? Go ahead, Susan.
A lot of times whenever, and I think the world definitely struggles with what's true. Even like Pontius Pilate, whenever he was interrogating Jesus, he's like, what is the truth? And what he didn't realize is the truth was standing right in front of him, because Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life, right? And, I think it's really easy to get just so distracted by what's on your feed and everything, your phone and doom scrolling and all that, but if you fill your phone with, the stuff in your algorithm is about Christianity, that's a better way to spend your time, I was looking at my screen time because it had a little report on there, at the end of every week, and it said 8 hours a day. That's kind of crazy. But then I realized everything I'm listening to, I really, really make a concerted effort to keep what's on there about the Bible, about my faith, about, so like, I was listening to, like, a lot of the stuff I also listen to is about medicine, right? And rewriting what's going on in your head, because this one neurosurgeon who's he's a Christian, he said, you can think on negative stuff, or you can do exactly what Philippians 4 says. You can think about whatever is commendable, anything that's excellent or praiseworthy or good, and you're going to rewire your brain to think about things that are a lot better than the garbage that you see on the news, you know. And so I've been trying to really just make an effort to put things in my phone if I am focusing on it that much. A lot of it has to do also with my business, because I run my business from my phone. But whenever I'm just listening to something, I'm trying to listen to something that's going to focus my eyes upward rather than everything around me, you know. But yeah, you can literally rewire your brain by what you pay attention to and how you think. It's really powerful, really powerful. And whenever I find myself getting anxious, which usually happens at 3 o'clock in the morning, I don't know why. But,
Yeah.
you know, what I'll do is I'll put on the Bible and I will press play on the U version and I just let the Psalms play all night. It helps, you know, like it's just it's literally doing what Philippians 4 is telling us to do.
Go ahead, Billy.
Okay. On her talk with that, our perspectives, not to bring it up again, but our walk with Christ and learning the Bible, we each have our own walk. Like Rick Smith, he's got his walk. He reads the Bible. I got my walk. I read the Bible. He reads the same thing I read, but in my walk it means this. In his walk it means that. But yet it's still supposed to mean the same thing. And then the other thing is, the Bible, you could study it and study just about the history of what the Bible is teaching and not your salvation. Or you can study the salvation. You understand? It might be a lot to unpack, but I'm sorry, I didn't mean to hit you with all that.
I love moving. I love it when I move my wife, because she packs boxes that Scott's going to carry, and then she packs his boxes that she's going to carry. You know, and there's a difference.
Oh, you're
So-
heavy.
Yeah. Go ahead. Arlene.
To be a Christian, in my mind, is to be like Christ. We are to pattern our lives like His. He was forever helping other people. He never was after fame and fortune. He even told them, don't tell anybody that I healed you. If we can get our money, if we can get our mind, which I don't have much of anymore, if we can get that focus, that's what we're here for, and try to do that, we get our mind off of ourselves.
Right.
And I think that's the only way to help yourself. That is the only way I can help myself.
Right. I agree with you. It goes along with a lot of what Susan was saying. When you change your perspective and you start changing the way your mind is working, and you start thinking on positive things and great things and good things and all the wonderful things God has done for us, and you start to count your blessings, all of a sudden the burden becomes lighter. You still have the same work to do, but if you're doing it for Christ, it's one thing. If you're doing it just so you can pay the light bill, it's so much more of a burden. You're a slave to all these things in the world because we're here. We're in this world and we're a slave to this world. But when we change our perspective and start looking outwardly, I know I've mentioned this lots of times, but, you know, when we get up in the morning, there is not one part of me that wants to do a devotional with 2 teenagers and a 5-year-old that just rolled out of the sack. I mean, just, you know, and guaranteed, they're not full of zeal just to crack open the Bible and start to read stuff, you know. But when we do it, we all have a better start. Now, it might only take me walking off the front porch to get in my truck to change my disposition. But our start is focused in the right direction. And I mean, if you guys can do it, if you can get up and read a little bit, there's tons of different devotionals out there, different books that can help you change your focus. You know, and if you've grown up with these strongholds, you know, if you've grown up, like I didn't grow up in the church. I didn't even know a Christian. And I grew up thinking, me, 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 me. Everything was for me. Me, me, me. And that's the person you are. That's who you've grown to be, who you've taught your mind to be, who you've taught yourself to think like. And then Christ comes along. Christ walks into your life. What happens? That focus has to change. If you're going to grow in the right direction, it's got to change.
That's like the greatest thing about Christianity is you could come from generations of it's all about me, you know? Like you could come from that, but if you give your life to Christ, then, you know, it's like you're breaking a multi-generational curse, because then it becomes like, well, if it's only about me, I'm never going to be happy because I'm never going to have the perfect day and I'm never going to be the perfect person and I'm not going to, you know, like marry a perfect person because the person you marry is always got flaws, you know, because we're all a bunch of sinners, right? So, you know, it's just one of those things where, like, you know, whenever you break that generational curse and then it's not about you anymore, then it gives you like this, it gives you a higher purpose to live for. You know, you're not, and you realize the world is broken, I'm broken too, right? And like you can then realize that like, but there's this one person who did it right. And I want to live for that person. And then the responsibility doesn't seem like £1 million on your shoulders. It's like, well, this is what he wants me to do. As a man, you know, men, providers and, you know, protectors of their family, right? And for women, it's being a good helpmate to your husband and raising your kids up so that they're not living their lives just for themselves. Because when you do that, I mean, it all goes downhill. So, you know, it's really great whenever you see someone who's like breaking that multi-generational, I'm just going to live for myself thing, you know. And yeah, it's not easy, but it is good, you know, in the end, that responsibility towards your family and your God first.
Those are all good thoughts. I appreciate that, Susan. The whole point of this study, and I think most of you probably have it, was I wanted to direct us towards the way we were and the way that we are, and give us some tools to help us be better, to help us not focus on the inner man and focus on Christ and let Christ be in us and grow in us. I did recognize that Susan said that there's no perfect spouse and all that stuff, and luckily Stephanie's distracted back there with Mike, so she didn't hear that, so that's good. I think it's time for us to continually strive to look on the brighter, the better, the more excellent things. How fast can we get into any corner of this building as soon as service is over and start going down the hill? You know, the cry room's a mess. We need a new paint job. We need some TVs put up. We need this. We need that. Who did the driveway? Oh, there's ice on the driveway. What? I mean, it's so easy to pick up the negative. There once was a study that I saw, and I haven't been able to incorporate it into a lesson, but it's so simple. And the guy stands there with a clear glass of water, and it's supposed to represent perfectly pure water. And then he picks up some salt, and he says, how much salt can I put in this vessel of water before it's not pure water anymore? And it's the law of negativity. Salt is negative. You put that salt in there, that's it. It's no longer of any good use other than to cook with. It's not pure water anymore. Right. I mean, there's some minimal uses with it, but it's certainly not for good use for the rest of the world. And when we do that, like, we used to wake up in the morning, first thing, turn on the news. What does that do to you when you turn the news on? So, yeah, automatic, social disorder, going right down the rabbit hole, So I hope that this study was useful for everyone, and maybe we can continue this study a little bit further and go a little deeper in it, but I hope it was useful for everyone. Thanks, everybody.